Greetings friends, my name is Pavo Stelmach and now we will see the top news of recent days. A period of planned floods has begun in Russia, the most significant one now in Orsk, in the Orenburg region. Then the time for planned fires will come. Planned because this is no longer forecasting, but a firm belief in the inevitability. The climate is changing, but even existing Russian emergency response infrastructure has largely collapsed. In some places, disasters were provoked by a barbaric attitude towards nature. Plus, the human factor is added in the form of a violation of security measures. If someone says that it is a natural disaster, I will not agree. Because natural disasters are when people cannot do anything with the enormous force of nature, and when you build a dam in 2010 and in 2024 it breaks. By the way, today it became known about 3 places. This is negligence and incompetence, and also the wrong allocation of funds, because it is necessary to invest not in military campaigns and interventions, but in the safety of their own citizens, to the safety of their own cities, because few people know, but Orsk is the second largest city in the region, and its flooding is a huge event. It's like flooding Leicester or Memphis. Of course, fewer people live in Orsk, only a little more than 100,000, but such an indifferent attitude towards the people who live there can be seen from what is currently happening in the city. Oh no, not in the city, but in the region and in the whole country. More than 10,000 residential buildings and over 18,500 personal flats were flooded in the Orenburg region. More than 6,000 people were evacuated, authorities report. The Orsk oil refinery was stopped due to the possibility of flooding, and some may say that we are now gloating, but it is not so. After all, is it possible to gloat at the fact that people get results from their own actions? If you worry about the mythical Nazis in Ukraine, 1,500 kilometers away, when you yourself have not solved natural problems, then expect flooding. And as I said at the beginning, expect big fires in the summer, because the frosty nights have already survived. And no one knows exactly where nature will decide to show the Russians that they should care about it. In the suburbs of Moscow last winter, now in the Orenburg region, or a volcano in Kamchatka this summer, or in 2 or 3 years. And the task of humanity and any adequate government is to do everything so that people will suffer the least possible losses, and the task of the Kremlin in this case is to find a Ukrainian trace. Believe me or not, they can do it. How did they do it after the Kakhovka HPP was blown up? When they blew up the dam on the Dnipro and blamed Ukraine. You see how unexpectedly nature struck back. Yesterday, 3 direct hits were recorded in a protective shell of one of the reactors of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. This was announced by the Director General of the IAEA, Rafael Grossi. According to him, this happened for the first time since November 2022. The agency's support and assistance missions have confirmed that there were at least 3 direct hits to the main structure of the protective shell of the ZNPP reactor.
As I said before, the UN Security Council and the International Atomic Energy Agency Board of Governors, no one can conceivably benefit or get any military or political advantage from attacks against nuclear facilities. This is a no-go. I fully appeal to military decision makers to abstain from any actions violating the basic principles that protect nuclear facilities. Rafael Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, on social network X.
The IAEA reported that this accident did not endanger nuclear safety, but such incidents can lead to a violation of the integrity of the reactor's protective shell system. But let's talk a little about who could do it. In the first minutes after the strike, the Russians already blamed Ukraine, although information about the strike began to be disseminated only after the IAEA wrote about it, not when it happened. And look how profitable it turns out. Drones are now flying into the territory of Russia, which are hitting oil refineries, which greatly affect Russia's capability to fight, and society in general, since the price of gasoline is already starting to rise. And then, an allegedly Ukrainian drone flies to the ZNPP. It is profitable for Moscow. Now it is necessary to involve all the world's mass media and a hidden spy network to start talking about a possible nuclear catastrophe, which, according to the Kremlin, is being provoked by Ukrainians on the Ukrainian nuclear station. But the reality is different. It is not profitable for Ukraine to influence ZNPP work in any way. It is our energy workers who are restoring the power supply to the station after the Russian shelling. Since the beginning of the year, our people at least 6 times restored the power grid, and a nuclear disaster at the ZNPP will provoke serious environmental consequences for our territory. Even after the explosion of the Kakhovka Dam, ecologists said that the Zaporizhzhia NPP disaster could create a strip of 150 kilometers unfit for life. This is exactly what the Russians want, and we cannot allow it. The Russians are already creating such a strip by erasing Donbas cities one by one. Popasna, Bakhmut, Avdiivka are now more like ghost towns than populated areas. This is what the Russians currently want to do with Kharkiv and are talking about it openly. So why don't they do it now at the ZNPP? Or at least reduce the number of strikes by Ukrainian drones? In any case, the Kremlin wins, the democratic world, nature and our planet lose. But the Kremlin has not thought about it for a long time. Exactly 2 years ago, on April 8, 2022, the Russians committed a terrorist act against the civilian population of Ukraine, which were evacuated through the city of Kramatorsk. On that day, from the very morning, about 4,000 residents of Donetsk, Luhansk and Kharkiv region were at the Kramatorsk station. They were mostly women and children waiting for the evacuation train. Around 10:30, the first explosion ran out. The Russians used .U guided missile to attack civilians. After the explosion, all Russian media began to solemnly report on the successful attack on the concentration of Ukrainian military and equipment. But the messages were immediately corrected, and the Russian Federation began to deny its involvement in the terrorist attack. The special cynicism of this crime is confirmed by the inscription "For the Children," which was found on the body of the rocket launched by the Russians. They once again justified the violation of international law with a fictional narrative. As a result of this war crime against civilians, 61 people died, including 7 children. Another 121 people were injured. For now, that concludes our today's video. Thank you for watching. Stay updated, comment, like and subscribe to our UATV English channel for more news from Ukraine. Your support is that really matters for us. Goodbye.